Love stories can really touch our heartstrings. And no matter how many times we've heard or told the story, if we listen closely, there's still another layer that reveals itself. I believe today's gospel story about the great law of love and the Good Samaritan that we've heard hundreds of times before is, at its heart, a love story. For the next few minutes, we will focus on the love story with ourselves and with our neighbor, remembering that the Holy One is intimately embodied in all of our love. As we do so, I invite each of us to uncover layers of meaning that are most pertinent to us. Let's begin with healthy self-love, which is tightly interwoven with loving others. It is so important that we first love ourselves fully. For doing this will lead us to love others. This Jewish proverb bears this out. If I am not for myself, who will be? If I am only for myself, what am I? I believe that loving ourselves can sometimes be harder than loving others. So I invite each of us to now place our hand on our heart as we ask ourselves these questions. Can I see how infinitely lovable I am? Can I acknowledge my strengths and embrace them fully? Can I laugh at myself and not expect perfection? Can I forgive myself for past mistakes? Can I let go of anyone or anything that keeps me from being who I really am or who I am called to be? Can I prioritize myself and care for my body, mind, and spirit in a healthy way? No matter where we are along life's journey, let us remember to love ourselves fully. The gospel's great law of love also requires us to love our neighbor. Last week, I was behind a car with a radical bumper sticker that said, "Love your neighbor, no exceptions." That radically inclusive love statement offers us a framework for creating our continuing love stories with people, our animal friends, someone or something in the wild parts of nature, and perhaps something beyond this. Let's consider some examples. The first is a recent encounter our 3-year-old grandson, Michael, and I had with an outdoor creature. Mikey and I were at the playground, and after he enjoyed some time on the play set, we walked onto the lawn. All of a sudden, he turned around and started reaching for what turned out to be a garden snake moving through the grass. My adrenaline shot through the roof as I exclaimed loudly, "No, Mikey!" He immediately retracted his hand and came over to me. I'm not sure who was more scared, the snake or us. We then had a little education piece about our outdoor neighbor, the snake. At that point, the snake had curled up under the adjacent air conditioner, a perfect place for us to gaze at his beautiful skin from a safe distance. I put my arm around Mikey and held him close as I explained how important it was to not touch snakes that we want him to be safe. I also told him that the snake got scared and just wanted to be alone, and that some snakes are good, like this one, and other kinds could really hurt him. So that's why, to be safe, we don't go near them. I believe Mikey and I created a snake love story that showed our love for our snake neighbor and love for ourselves as we respected each other's needs. In a related story, a week later, I was hiking a trail at Tyler Arboretum. My left foot came within a whisker of, you guessed it, stepping on a snake. I was so surprised, pulled my foot back, and retreated. As I then spoke to the snake, she put her head up, looked me right in the eye for about 10 seconds, then lowered her head to the ground and slithered away. There was something about that eye contact that was saturated in beauty and love. It really grabbed my attention. I saw something deeper in the eyes of that snake. And as I reflect on it now, I believe it was divine energy looking back at me. Prior to these two experiences, I hadn't considered snakes as neighbors, but I now realize they are, even if they're not my favorite neighbors. Loving them means respecting who they are and the space they need, and learning how to live together in harmony. The second example I want to share is about community love and giving back. In a recent issue of the publication, Springfield Neighbors, is a beautiful story about Will and Carolyn Lehman Yarnell. For Carolyn and Will, family, community, and shared passions are the centerpiece of their lives. They sought out Springfield, Delaware County as a place to live because, in Carolyn's words, we knew this was a neighborhood where we could raise a family and thrive. They experienced firsthand the love of neighbors during Carolyn's breast cancer treatment, as neighbors brought them meals and watched their 3 kids, now ages 10, 10, and 8, on days that she had chemo. To give back to the community and to honor the memory of Carolyn's mother, who was a champion for children facing adversity, their family established an award for Springfield High School seniors who exemplify perseverance. They also strongly support the nonprofit Unite for Her, which offers integrative therapies, services, and education at no personal cost to those diagnosed with breast and/or ovarian cancer. Through these and other meaningful ways, Will and Carolyn Lehman Yarnell embody Jesus's call to love your neighbor in the Springfield community and in society at large. Their compassionate and inclusive outreach to people who are vulnerable is a radical way of living the gospel call to love your neighbor. For each of us, loving ourselves and our neighbors is a call to action, a call to compassionate living, both within ourselves and in the outside world. What love stories is God nudging you to create? Who might be a surprise neighbor, as the snake was for me, that is yearning for you to see them with deeper eyes? I invite you this week to write a love letter to yourself, embracing yourself tenderly. And perhaps if there is a piece of yourself that you're struggling to embrace, place that lovingly in your writing. Include in your letter how you might feel called to love your neighbor in a more expansive way. Love truly is the greatest story of all.